Mayday. 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 This is Conception. We have fire aboard the vessel. 34 people on the boat. At 3:14 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time on September 2nd, 2019, the U.S. Coast Guard received this desperate distress call from the Conception, a 75-foot dive boat anchored in Platts Harbor on the north side of Santa Cruz Island. But by the time rescue boats arrived, 34 people were already dead. Trapped below deck in what would become California's deadliest maritime disaster in over 150 years. This is what really happened that night. The Conception had departed Santa Barbara Harbor on August 31st, 2019, for what should have been a routine 3-day scuba diving trip to the Channel Islands. The 75-foot vessel was operated by Truth Aquatics, a company with a decades-long reputation for safe diving excursions. 39 souls were aboard that final voyage. 33 passengers ranging from teenagers to retirees, all united by their love of diving, and a 6-person crew. Among the crew was 26-year-old Allie Kurtz, who had left her job in the movie industry in Santa Monica earlier that year to follow her dream of working on a boat. She had no idea she would never return home. The vessel was anchored 21.5 nautical miles south-southwest of Santa Barbara, California, in the protected waters of Platts Harbor. It was Labor Day weekend, a perfect time for diving in California's crystal-clear waters. The first 2 days had gone exactly as planned. Passengers explored the vibrant underwater world around Santa Cruz Island, diving among kelp forests and rocky reefs. The weather was perfect. Calm seas and clear skies. Veterans of Truth Aquatics trips knew this was diving at its finest. When the fire started, 5 crew members were asleep in their bunks, and the crew berthing on the upper deck, and 1 crew member was on watch duty. Down below, in the passenger compartment, 33 passengers and 1 crew member, Allie Kurtz, were sleeping in their berths, exhausted from a full day of diving. But here's what makes this tragedy so devastating. The Conception's design created what investigators would later call a death trap. The passenger sleeping quarters were located entirely below deck, accessible by only 2 means of escape, both leading to the same area. There was a main stairway and an escape hatch, but that hatch opened right next to the stairway. If fire blocked that one exit point, everyone below was trapped. At 3:14 a.m., something went catastrophically wrong. The preliminary findings indicate that all crew members were asleep when the fire broke out. Think about that for a moment. On a vessel carrying 39 people, nobody was maintaining a proper watch. This wasn't just a mistake. It was a fatal violation of basic maritime safety protocols. The fire started somewhere in the salon area, the main gathering space of the boat. The cause of the casualty has not yet been definitively established, but an electrical fire or battery charging fire is one suspected cause. In the age of smartphones, GoPros, and electronic diving equipment, the salon was packed with charging devices and batteries. What happened next defies belief. The fire spread with terrifying speed through the fiberglass vessel. Within minutes, toxic smoke and flames had engulfed the salon and blocked both escape routes from the passenger compartment below. The blaze trapped passengers below deck, where they died of smoke inhalation, officials say. Captain Jerry Boylan, 67 years old, with decades of maritime experience, was sleeping in the wheelhouse when he was awakened by the fire, along with 4 other surviving crew members. He made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Instead of attempting to rescue the passengers trapped below, instead of grabbing fire extinguishers or making emergency announcements over the boat's PA system, Boylan and his crew abandoned ship. They jumped overboard and swam to a nearby recreational boat, leaving 34 people to die. At 3:14 a.m., from the safety of another vessel, Boylan made that Mayday call you heard earlier. The vessel was anchored in Platts Harbor on the north side of Santa Cruz Island, 21.5 nautical miles south-southwest of Santa Barbara, California, when it caught fire. By dawn, the Conception was nothing more than a burned-out hull floating in the Pacific. The Coast Guard and FBI immediately launched one of the largest maritime investigations in California history. Bodies of 33 victims of California diving boat fire recovered, 1 still missing initially, but eventually all 34 victims were recovered from the wreckage. What investigators discovered was shocking. The National Transportation Safety Board has placed the blame for the dive boat fire that killed 34 people on the vessel's owners. The 5-member board ruled unanimously on Tuesday that it was a lack of oversight by the owners, Truth Aquatics Inc., that led to the disaster. The NTSB found that Truth Aquatics had failed to provide adequate fire safety training to their crews. Board member Jennifer Homendi, who traveled to Santa Barbara in 2019 and toured a sister ship, discovered that the company's safety protocols were woefully inadequate, but the most damning evidence was yet to come. Night watchmen could have saved lives in disaster near Santa Cruz Island. Investigators tell NTSB the investigation revealed that if just one crew member had been awake and alert as required by maritime law, this tragedy could have been prevented. The fire burned for over an hour before consuming the vessel. An alert watchman could have detected the fire early, sounded alarms, and potentially saved lives by directing passengers to safety or fighting the fire before it spread. A federal jury had found Jerry Boylan, 70, guilty of seaman's manslaughter in November 2023 in connection with the deadly boat fire. Captain sentenced to 4 years and fiery deaths of 34 aboard scuba boat in California. But that's what will shock you about this case. But Boylan's attorneys sought to pin blame on Glenn Fritzler, who, with his wife, owns Truth Aquatics Inc., which operated the Conception and 2 other scuba dive boats, often around the Channel Islands. They argued that Fritzler was responsible for failing to train the crew in firefighting. The investigation revealed that this was not an isolated incident of poor safety protocols. It was systematic negligence by the company. Truth Aquatics operated 3 dive boats, and investigators found the same dangerous practices on all of them. But here's the truly shocking part. On 5th anniversary of tragedy, NTSB slams U.S. Coast Guard over Conception boat fire, killing 34 people. The NTSB has now turned its attention to the Coast Guard itself, questioning how such unsafe operations could continue for years under their watch. All 33 passengers and 1 crew member below deck were killed in the fire. This is one of the deadliest recreational maritime disasters in recent history. Among them were families on vacation, experienced divers pursuing their passion, and young Allie Kurtz, who died following her dream. 5 years later, new regulations have been implemented requiring better escape routes, fire detection systems, and mandatory night watches on passenger vessels. But for the families of the 34 who died, these changes came too late. The question that haunts maritime safety experts today: how many other vessels are operating with the same dangerous conditions that killed 34 people aboard the Conception? And in an age where we can track every cell phone and monitor every car, how did a 75-foot vessel carrying 39 people simply burn and sink with no early warning system to save lives? It is the deadliest maritime disaster in California in more than 150 years. The Conception fire didn't just claim 34 lives. It exposed systemic failures in maritime safety oversight that may still be putting passengers at risk today. What do you think? Should Captain Boylan bear full responsibility? Or was this the inevitable result of an industry that prioritized profits over passenger safety? And more importantly, how many other dive boats are operating right now with the same deadly conditions that destroyed the Conception?